least that's one of the ways these guys have got a bit for nothing.
Tom 2. Yeah, Tom 1 mentioned TypeScript as being recommended for new projects. Is that something that you guys are using as an alternative to plain old JavaScript?
I'm going to refer to one of our actual developers to answer that.
There's two options. There's one called Flow.js and there's one called TypeScript. I use Flow.js just because it's the one that's Facebook pushes. They're pretty similar in terms of feature sets. But it works. I get slightly fewer errors at runtime and slightly more in my editor, so it's nice.
Flow.js is quite nice because you can incrementally adopt it as well. So you can write some JavaScript files without Flow, or say if you have an existing code base, you can move some of it over to Flow and leave some of it without. Whereas with TypeScript, it's kind of an all or nothing situation. You write a .ts file for TypeScript, whereas Flow you still write a .js file and you have a comment annotation at the top, which kind of pops you into Flow. So they're two kind of slightly different philosophies.
I think you can compile .js files as well.
Okay, well there you go.
To what extent do Facebook actually use React Native themselves? Do they use their own apps? Or?
Yes, they do. So they actually do the thing that Airbnb failed at, which is integrate React Native into a lot of their apps. So parts of the Facebook app is React Native, not the newsfeed, not the main bits, but some of the stuff like the events pages and things like that. Parts of those are React Native components.
Some of their smaller apps, like some of their advertising management apps and things, a lot of the apps faced at businesses who run businesses on Facebook and things, a lot of those apps are, some of those apps definitely are React Native. And like specials within the iPhone app, so like they have like a friend day or this and that, and like a special anniversary stuff and that sort of thing. A lot of those kind of one-off specials within the main app are written in React Native.
Do sort of other tools such as Flutter help to alleviate some of the problems or that you've associated with Flutter, or are they with React Native, or are they kind of inherent with those frameworks as well?
Not so sure about Flutter, actually.
Yeah, we have a couple of Flutter people, and where's Dave Taylor, who did there he is. So Dave did a talk, I want to say November, on Flutter, so obviously I'm going to hand this over to you, Dave.
Well,
Can you have it?
certainly one of the problems that goes away is the bridge. In Flutter, everything is compiled down to native machine code, so there is no bridge between UI and business logic.
I've been fortunate enough to use all of them, including React Native and Flutter, and I've got to say one of the things that resonated was how common all the issues are across all of the cross-platform frameworks. There is no silver bullet, and they all suffer the same issues. One of the points I was going to raise, actually, is a point you made, a query, was the fact that you, in my experience, I wonder if you can always treat all developers as just a resource necessary.
Of course, so we have lots of different developers with lots of different skills.
Yeah.
And some are more senior and some more junior, and some are better at front end and some are better at back end and some are better at the API logic, and there's all kinds of different trade-offs.
Yeah.
But actually, if you're in a fix and you need someone for a week, they're close enough they can help each other out. There's also, I think, saying that the most of it, the benefit is actually the culture. And they're all pulling in the same direction, and they're all working on the same code base, and they're all using the same tools and the same skills and the same libraries. At Calvium we have a policy of code review. So code isn't done when the developer says it's done, code is done when another developer has reviewed it and tested it and says it's done. And actually having anyone be able to review anyone's code and having different people of different skills on the same project reviewing each other's code helps to bring up the less experienced developers, and also helps to share the expertise. And then somebody breaks their leg and can't come to work or something, actually because people have been reviewing their other code and because there is a wealth of different skills and expertise within the project, that makes that whole thing more manageable. It's not the case, well, the iOS developer's ill, we can't do any iOS. So people are not robots and they're not interchangeable, but a lot of those shared ideas and shared conversations and shared understanding and shared code reviews and so on and so forth, actually bringing the whole team together makes a big cultural change in terms of how it works. And sometimes you do just need 2 more people for 3 days because you're late and the deadline's here, and you can just bring someone in, and they might not be exactly the right person, but they can do it.
Yeah.
So that can
No, it's absolutely cultural.
I have what could sound like a fairly flippant question, so I'll put it in a little bit of context first. Given React Native is shooting at a moving target itself because the underlying native APIs are constantly moving, is it ever going to get out of beta?
Is Gmail out of beta yet?
It might be a while, yeah. I think you're absolutely right. It is always going to be slightly behind. It's always going to be playing catch up. There's always going to be new stuff that comes out on iOS and Android that React Native needs to integrate in. So yeah, you are always going to be slightly behind the curve there. I think the fact that it's still in beta means that they can break things quite easily and quite quickly. So my sense is once they get to version 1, which might not be for quite a while yet, there's this rewrite that they're doing, and I certainly wouldn't expect version 1 to come out until they're finished with this rewrite. Maybe this platform will become slightly more stable and they'll respect the fact that they shouldn't make too many breaking changes, so people can guarantee that they can bet on React Native in a year from now, they wouldn't have to spend 2 days upgrading their code for it to actually work with them.
They've said it will be API compatible.
It will, yeah. Oh, well, there you go then. Yeah, okay.
Do you think, sorry to jump in with a question, not standing up, so. do you think one of the reasons that Stack Overflow isn't so hot for React Native stuff is because the fact it changes all the time, and the fact that documentation is out of date, like you said, it's getting better, but do you think that's a reason? Like, I mean, the other mobile platforms, iOS and Android, are massively changing each year, big changes, but I don't know, it feels more consistent. I don't know whether you would think that would be a reason why, or?
I only learned today that this was the case.
Well, it's interesting. I've not really even thought about it before, but most of the stuff that I learned about React Native is from Medium, it isn't from Stack Overflow. So it's not something I've ever actually thought about. One of the troubles is with Medium is you still get stuff that's out of date. Stuff that was written a year ago is just no longer relevant because there's context there. It's a good question. I really don't know the answer to that.
Anyone else have an
I
idea?
agree with
More
Tom.
developers, React Native don't seem to be as active in the community.
Okay.
I've gathered.
Yeah.
Facebook developers, one of the next things we've got focused on is Facebook's needs. And then maybe they're not sharing the knowledge, and then there isn't anyone who's got very deep on that works as it is.
A lot of React Native sits on top of React itself. So often if you have a question, if it's a fairly broad question, then you could probably solve it from a React post. Or it can often be an issue with setting up Xcode or setting up Gradle or something, which can be found elsewhere as well. So as for actual React Native side of things, you're looking at the React Native components and the API. There's not a huge surface area there really for React Native questions that are specific to React Native, I guess. So a lot of those questions could be answered elsewhere. Maybe that's part of the problem, but probably part of the
What was the question down in front of you?
I agree with Tom as well.
Oh, sorry, I was sorry.
In that there seems to be a little less consensus of how things are done in React Native. It's a bit like the Wild West. So I've had the same experience where there's less information on Stack Overflow, but the Medium posts tend to be a bit more opinionated. So I find that the content there is better if not the quantity, but essentially better resource.
So we've had a few hands up for a while, so can we say you and then I think there was then Dan, yeah.
It's a Victorian question. Cordova? I mean, how does that...
So I think Cordova has its place. I wouldn't choose to build an app with Cordova in 2018. What I would potentially consider it for is prototypes. So one of the challenges I have with React Native is forms, although it's getting a bit better. But with Cordova, because it's a web view, you get all of the browser form stuff, which is really, really nice actually. So if you were building a form-heavy prototype, then something like Ionic could fit quite well. But I think for anything else, it falls down quite badly really. It's very emulated, the UI, and you used to use it for 5 minutes and you just think something's wrong here, it doesn't quite work. So I certainly wouldn't choose it anymore. It's been a trusty friend though for a number of years.
I we'd wrap it up, and we've used it. When I said hybrid, we started with hybrid. We've used it in the past. If that's what you know, and what you're doing is just trying to knock something up or get something working, depends on the audience. If it's consumer facing, the standards of apps that consumers are used to, most consumers use, the apps that most consumers use most of the time are these super rich, super well funded. Most of your consumers are on Facebook, Instagram, WhatsApp, Google, so on and so forth, which are incredibly well made, incredibly slick apps. And if that's what your consumers are used to, it's hard to make a Cordova app feel that good. If it's an internal utility or a business app or something, there are reasons to go that way. We don't use it anymore.
I think once upon a time, Cordova was pretty much the only option for cross-platform as well, which is why it became quite popular. Whereas now you look at Xamarin, React Native, Flutter, lots of other choice. So I think, yeah, you're always going to end up in problems because it's just a full screen web view.
So it's still fine then?
It's fine in some cases.
I'm joking.
No, I think it does have its place, and I think it's actually progressed the other technologies as well. It's made people realise, okay, cross-platform is a thing. People want it, but Cordova wasn't the right implementation. It wasn't the right approach. It's good. It's good debate.
Cool. We've got time for a couple more questions before we close off.
Yep.
I was curious how, like, either Xamarin or React Native deal with the non-UI facing parts of cross-platform, like things like Bluetooth Low Energy, and how well that sort of thing is supported across both.
Okay, so yeah, there's loads of support for native APIs. I mean, Xamarin has a one-to-one, a promise for on the release of every native update that the very next day there will be a one-to-one match with that API. So you can always integrate and interact with any of those local APIs. And there'll often be plugins that will abstract them out and to try and make an attempt at a cross-platform implementation of that as well, to varying degrees of success. Bluetooth's a good example, or potentially a bad example, because it can be problematic.
May have checked it on purpose.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
it's a problem natively though.
Yes, it is. Yeah.
As well. Like, if anyone's used it in Android, it can be a pain.
I think this is probably where Xamarin wins really, because in React Native you would rely on either a library somebody else has written or writing some native code and bridging it yourself. So yeah, the fact that Xamarin has this automatic way of
it's a manual process,
okay,
but still,
you can still. I think it's much easier than having to write that bridging code yourself. Yeah. You'd probably you'd either need to know native code or hope that someone else has written a library for it, basically.
And one more question, Davey.
Yeah, a question to someone. Really, everything is on two sides. How would you best go about selecting the React Native libraries you use? So there's the open source test out there. It's difficult to apply that to JJ99OR7. Looks like a machine generated name / location.
Yeah.
But that's what scared me initially the most of using React Native, is that I'm reliant on bedroom developers.
Yeah. Popularity, number one. Have other people used it? How many downloads does it have on NPM? I don't really take much advantage of GitHub stars, although if there's 8,000 then it's probably a pretty good bet. And the other thing I normally do is just look at the code and see if it's well written. If I get a decent feel for it. Well,
well, it's well written in one. As the article mentioned, the third language is always the hardest.
Yeah. Well, there you go. Yeah. And I mean, sometimes you just have no choice. There is one option, and you have to choose it. And if it's shit, then it's shit, and you're just going to have to deal with it all.
Slight follow-up, because I know you've been there a while. Have you ever chosen to take a package in-house in your own NPM and then basically correct the errors that you're seeing potentially in your own app, and not try and contribute it back because of all the difficulties that can sometimes cause?
Yes, I mean, I would always try and contribute first of all, but if the person is non-responsive, or I've had success in taking packages over before, so you can actually write to NPM and say, this person has abandoned this package, yet it's still being downloaded thousands of times a month. But it's got all these pull requests and all these issues. Do you mind if we take it over? And so I've had success in 1 or 2 cases of doing that. It is always kind of nice to try and contribute back, but yeah, absolutely. If